Hey everybody, thank you all so much for hopping on in and hopping on over to my first session of the Empower Hour mini PD series. Now the title might be Empower Hour, but the emphasis on mini. Okay, so over the next few days, not including the weekend because you know it's the weekend, I'm going to delve into instructional practices and strategies that you can use to empower yourself, which will ultimately empower your students. So today's session is all about mindset. But first, let me introduce myself to y'all. My name is Alexa Ashil, and I became a teacher in 2017 through the New York City Teaching Fellows Program. Okay, this is a non-traditional track towards teaching, and the purpose of the Teaching Fellows is to place new teachers within subjects or areas of education where there is the highest need. So for me, that looked like special education. The fellows also required us to teach in schools that were Title I, which means that the students were either they qualified for low income. The fellows also required us to teach in schools that were Title I, which are schools that serve students who qualify free or reduced lunch, or they come from low income areas. Okay, so I ended up teaching at a school in Hell's Kitchen out in New York City that predominantly served Black, Latinx, or Afro-Latinx students, and they commuted to our school from Harlem, the Bronx, Queens, as distant as Far Rockaway. And if you're from New York City, you know how far Rockaway is from even just Queens itself, all right? And they also commuted from Brooklyn. And the school that I taught in shared a building with 4 other schools. Yeah, you heard that right. 4 schools in one building. So it's safe to say we were a really small school, but that also meant that our space was very limited. We held classes on the first floor of the building, or half of the first floor, the entire second floor, and we also had access to a few rooms on the 5th floor of the building where students would have to walk up the stairs from the 2nd floor. Okay, so it was not an easy trek to get up there. Luckily, it was only gym, so it was getting a cardio going up to the 5th floor, which prepared them for whatever the gym teacher wanted to teach them that day. So while we had access to all the supplies you can think of, like paper, sticky notes, chart paper, markers, pens, and pencils, we also lacked a lot of things. We didn't have a functioning library. We didn't have textbooks. Sometimes our computers did not work, and sometimes the smart boards didn't work. And, you know, I even taught in classrooms where there weren't any windows, like 0 windows, nothing to look out at. So all we could look at was each other or whatever was on the walls of the classroom that I was teaching in. So I say all of this to say that on paper, it would seem as though on top of all of the daily challenges of being a teacher and specifically a special educator, that the school I worked at had high need students, it had lack of resources, and little to no family and community support. So this kind of environment could make a new teacher or even a seasoned teacher feel like nothing was even possible. And with that type of mindset, nothing is. And so this is what we like to call a scarcity mindset. And that is a belief that one has limited resources or is unable to provide for themselves or others. And this scarcity mindset can lead to intense feelings of anxiety or overwhelm. And it is the very reason why this series is starting off with shifting our mindset from a scarcity one to one that is abundant. Because let's be honest, if you believe that teaching is impossible in the environment that you are in, that the students you serve are too high need to learn or meet your expectations, or that you have no support, then that will become your reality. However, if you believe that challenges are an opportunity for growth, that collaboration inspires creativity, and that you already have everything you need to get started, then guess what? You will. And when you move toward an abundant mindset, you are more likely to implement new teaching strategies, persist in the face of challenges, and ultimately create a more engaging learning environment for students. I mean, this sounds a lot like the growth mindset that we try to have students implement. So let's take a step back and try to implement it for ourselves, all right? So one step that you can take to begin making this shift to an abundance mindset is to embrace your strengths. You are the curriculum, or whatever Beyonce said. Your unique expressions, passions, and personality is such a valuable asset in the classroom. And when you integrate these, it creates a more engaging learning environment and fosters deeper connections with your students. So research shows that students reported a higher level of motivation and satisfaction when teachers incorporated their passions into their lessons. So how do we do this? Well, first and foremost, it takes some self-reflection. So here are 2 suggestions that I have for you. Suggestion number 1, create an identity chart. Okay. Identity charts are typically a tool to help students consider the many factors that shape their own identity or the identities of nations or groups of people, historical figures, literary figures, all that jazz. And I use them a lot as a U.S. history teacher. And I want to shout out Facing History in Ourselves because that is where this strategy comes from, or where I learned about this strategy. But for you, an identity chart will support you in outlining all the pieces of your identity that make up who you are. One thing I learned as a teacher is no matter how hard you try to hide aspects of who you are, they're going to manifest in how you teach and interact with your school community, whether that's good or that's bad. So all I'm saying is, why not surface them and use them to your advantage? All right, here's suggestion numero 2. Take a look at an upcoming lesson and consider how you yourself relate to it. Do you have any stories or experiences that you can share with your students that will bring this lesson to life? You know, we always try to make our lessons relevant to students, but what can happen if you make the lesson relevant to you? Not only will this make teaching the lesson more enjoyable for yourself, because trust me, when I'm in the classroom and I'm teaching something that I love, I have so much energy, I'm really excited, and there's a smile on my face more times than not. But students will also see how you light up when you're teaching something you're passionate about or have some sort of connection to. And you know, they'll probably try to play you and call you corny and be like, "Miss, why are you so excited about this? Da-da-do, But that's really just the student's way of like showing like, I see you. This is so cool that my teacher actually is passionate about something. And in reality, you're modeling how to connect what's happening in your classroom to real life, which is something we always try to get students to do, right? Make those real world connections. But how are they gonna make those real world connections if you're not making the real world connections, right? You have to model it. Every single thing you do is teaching. You have to model, model, model. So all of this leads me to the last point of this quick mini PD session. If you want to be truly abundant, then you cannot be afraid to be true to you. Yes, you cannot be afraid to be true to you. When you are genuine and comfortable in your own skin, you'll create a more trusting and supportive classroom environment. This type of authenticity allows for vulnerability, which fosters deeper student connections and also fosters a love for learning. Y'all, you're going to hear me say this over and over and over again, but teaching is a deeply personal practice. All right, you bring your entire self into the classroom. That means you bring the good, the bad, the tired, happy, sad, exhausted. You bring your goofy self into the classroom each and every single day. So when you curate your classroom as a safe space for you to bring all of that up in there, guess what? The space becomes a place for students to do the same. And so when everybody has a chance to be authentically who they are, whether that's tired, happy, excited, exhausted, that's where those relationships are formed. And that's truly where learning can happen, because you're honoring yourself as a whole person, thus honoring the whole student as well. Now, I am aware that this is not easy work, and it's not something teachers are taught to do in schools or during PD. So here are a few questions that you can reflect on to help you take the first step, or hey, some of you might already be doing this work. So maybe it will help you take the next step forward toward being authentically and abundantly yourself. Okay, so here is question number 1. What are my unique passions and strengths that I can bring into the classroom? Question 2. When was a time I felt most comfortable and engaged in teaching? What can I learn from that experience? Question 3. Is there something I'm hiding or holding back from my students that could create a deeper connection? All right. I know I covered a lot in a short amount of time, and I provided you all with strategies that you can use to begin your empowerment journey. But I wouldn't be me if I didn't create some resources that you can engage with to continue to do this work. So if you're interested in gaining access to the activities and resources I spoke about, like the identity chart and those reflection questions, if you go down to the description of this video, you will see a link where you can register for our resource room, which is a Google Classroom. It's on Google Classroom, that's a platform. And what you'll find there is not only all of the resources that I talked about today, the identity chart and those reflection questions, but also a whole bunch of other resources that I curated and created over the last few years. Okay, so definitely go ahead and get those resources. Last but not least, I want to invite you all to a free virtual workshop. It's free and it's virtual and it's a workshop to help you. Yeah. It's going to be taking place next week, Wednesday. That's April 24th, 7:45 p.m. And the workshop is going to be a lesson plan clinic. All right, so this is going to be an exclusive small group session where we will use the strategies that I talk about in these Empower Hour mini PD sessions to enhance your lesson. The goal is for y'all to bring a lesson and for us to dive in and improve upon what you already have. All right, listen, at the Collabo, I'm here to be your thought partner. And so this is your chance to get in with me, have a thought partner to help you enhance your lesson and move you towards being the empowered teachers I know you can be. All right, so that's it for today. I shall see you in day 2 of the Empower Hour mini PD sessions. All right, hasta la pasta.